know, but what? Are we supposed to write it down?
This is a classroom in which the students are responsible for their own learning. The teacher doesn't have to worry about making sure that her students are on task. In this classroom, the teacher has the luxury of taking time to stimulate her students' thinking rather than worrying about whether or not they have the resources to complete their work.
Right. Oh, I see what you mean. So this is 1, so the whole thing's 5, right?
It isn't just this group of students or this one teacher that can implement group work so successfully. Nor is it students in just a particular grade level who can interact with one another so productively. These teachers and hundreds more like them are implementing a teaching strategy called complex instruction. Complex instruction focuses on the development of higher-order thinking skills in academically and linguistically diverse classrooms.
Okay, so Nikki says there's little bubbles coming up. Can you hypothesize why? Why are they different?
In complex instruction, the students are given the responsibility for getting their work done. This is accomplished through a combination of rules and roles. The rules, also known as cooperative norms, encourage participatory behavior.
We didn't like the way they looked so formal. And so we rewrote them as class rules, and they had to take turns and share. So I wanted to see everybody working and everybody involved. And we talked about that they have the right to ask questions, that their learning is their responsibility. So if they have a question, they can't just wait for somebody to some angel to alight upon their desk and describe what the problem is to them. They have to ask. And that the other group members have the responsibility to answer their questions to the best of their ability.
A complex instruction lesson begins with an orientation. During this time, the teacher prepares the students to work cooperatively by introducing these group process skills.
I want you to remember that your group is not done until all of you are done. So you have a responsibility to help the other people in your group. And if you have a question, you have to ask for help from the other people in your group.
The norms and roles are also reinforced through visual aids. Every student is assigned a role to play. This divides the labor and ensures participation by all group members. These procedural roles assist students in gaining access to the materials and to group knowledge. The roles create a forum for interaction and help the students to complete their task. The teacher uses the orientation to teach students about the roles.
And I'm going to introduce a new role. And today, I want the reporters to also take the new role. So those people who I just mentioned are going to be harmonizer. There's a poster on the back of the wall. It says, harmonizer, make sure communication lines are open, make sure there are no put-downs, and encourages positive responses. So you're kind of in charge of seeing that there's a positive atmosphere in your group, that you guys are getting along well, and that positive things are being said. Does anybody have some ideas about what a harmonizer might say?
The students wear badges to remind them of their roles.
I'm not cleaned up. Oh, well. She was cleaned up. Who's saying me? Thank you.
Different roles are used in the classroom depending on the grade level and subject matter, but all groups have a facilitator.
2 days. What kind of changes do you see? Write what happens on your worksheet. If the base dries up, add 2 teaspoons of water and 2 teaspoons of ammonia. Okay, does everybody understand what we're supposed to do? Yes. Yeah, I got it. Okay, what's the name of the center?
Salt Crystal Garden.
You got it.
Okay, we could start.
As student interaction increases, learning gains increase. That's the finding of research conducted at the Program for Complex Instruction during the past 10 years. The more the teacher practices direct instruction, or hovers, while students are at their learning centers, the more likely it is that the students turn to the teacher for help instead of to each other. When the teacher stands back and makes the students accountable for the group's task, we call it delegating authority. This encourages student interaction.
What do you feel?
Put your thumb over it. Put your thumb over it. Feel it.
Now I feel calm.
The students know how to behave because the management system of cooperative norms and roles is in place. Many of the functions the teacher used to perform, such as making sure everyone understands the task and has the necessary materials, are now the responsibility of the students. This is possible because the task card provides the students with all the information they need.
Do you guys understand?
The norms and the roles are all ways of delegating authority so that the facilitator makes sure everybody's working, and I don't have to go around saying, get back in your seat, stop playing, put the letter away. I want to see you guys working together. The facilitators do make sure that happens. So I want them to know that I will help them, but I also want them to know that that they need to ask the people in their group first, because it might be an easy question that somebody in their group can answer, or not easy, but it might be a question that somebody in their group can answer and can explain okay.
When the group process is going smoothly, the teacher is freed up to help the students to analyze or generalize a problem.
Is there any way you can verify that? No, I don't want generalized. I want you to verify it. Is there a way you can check it to make sure that you're right? How do you know that you're right with 4? Because 4 is a good conjecture, and you told me why you thought it would be 4. It would fit the pattern.
Let's see, we tried everything and that's what we said.
And you only found 4? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, without rotating it.
Okay. Is there a systematic way to generalize the shapes? Can you figure out?
By helping the students to analyze a problem, the teacher gives students an opportunity to think aloud and to hear how others interpret the information. Helping students to generalize allows them to see how specific concepts or principles can be applied to a larger framework, expanding their critical thinking skills.
How do you think the peasants felt when they finally had the courage to stand up against the lords? What were some of the feelings? Pardon me? You felt strong. What other feelings? They must have had more than just the feelings of feeling strong and pride. They must have had other kinds of feelings too.
They were scared.
Scared, absolutely. What? And angry. Gloria, can you think of a group of people that just recently have stood up against a regime?
No.
No? Okay. Janice, can you?
The Kurds.
The Kurds.
Going against Saddam, and then
They're going against someone.
They probably had very much the same feelings that the peasants did when they stood up against the nobles during the Reformation period.
Teachers can also ask students extending questions, which encourage them to delve deeper into the activity.
And also another extension of this activity, you could present, you're doing the manifesto based on this particular information, right? An extension would be to present your own manifesto to me. The students of Mrs. Atkinson's class would like to present a manifesto, and you can list your grievances if you want, and present that manifesto.
Knowing when to intervene is just as important as knowing how to intervene. If the students are working well together and progress on the task seems to be going smoothly, the teacher can take time to stand back and watch the class. The teacher notes group or individual behavior and any problems the students may have with the task. Some of these details can be dealt with later on. Others require more immediate feedback.
Because obviously you're having a problem with the balance.
Feedback is specific, evaluative information on a student's performance. Feedback can focus on the task.
Well, talk about it, guys, but you need something in the base so that it's a little stronger. Remember how we talked about it being stronger?
On a particular skill.
Doing a good job of working with this information and trying to pull out the understanding.
Or on the general process of the group.
One of the things that researchers have found out is that the more students discuss together and talk together, the greater the learning gains. But if one person does all this stuff, then they're the only one learning right then. Okay? So somehow you have to figure out how to share all that work. Also,
notice that the teachers give very specific feedback. To be effective, feedback must not only be specific, but it must also be sincere. Teachers sometimes hesitate to give corrective feedback, but it is as important as reinforcing something the student has done well.
I would like to see maybe a little bit of a plan that each person here could be working on a different part of the city. So you're designing this castle town, and what I see is one person building and 2 people watching. And if Bobby, could you stop for a moment and just listen to me? Because you still have a lot of time. How about if you stop right now and draw out kind of a rough plan? Put your knees north.
At the end of the lesson, the teacher once again gathers the class together. As the reporter from each group tells the class about the group's activity, the teacher can take the opportunity to again give feedback and reinforce the lessons taught through group work.
All right, so what you're saying is that the latitude lines are not all as long as longitude lines are?
I guess they're the same, but I always thought of it that they were long.
I think the next group needs to look very carefully at their globe and see if there's a difference between the line that goes around the equator and the line that's the Arctic Circle.
The teacher can also give feedback on the group process.
Okay. We also saw that Jenny helped her group. She was a good asset to her group yesterday in that they had 2 activities to do. And what she said was after they did the first one, she says, well, we need to go back and reread our task card so that we know exactly what the directions are and we can follow the directions precisely. Okay? So she was using being a great facilitator in getting the group on task and making sure that they follow directions.
Specific feedback on the group process helps keep the classroom management system of roles and norms on track. This allows the teacher to focus on what's really important.
The delegation of authority to the materials person frees me up from having to do mindless stuff like running around making sure everyone has scissors, so that I can actually do some teaching and delve into their minds and find out what they're thinking and see if I can probe them into explaining their thinking.